Hi, everybody. On the circle. Okay. Isn't this a great piece of advice? Just leap and the net will appear. It's how I live my life. It's what I actually believe in, and I've made some spectacular leaps over the years. Some of them have gotten me into trouble. Most of them have ended well. I'm going to tell you about two of them, two of my more exciting leaps. But before I do, I'm going to just address maybe some of the questions you have about me. क्योंकि मुझे पता है कि लोग मुझे देख के थोड़ा जिज्ञासा होते हैं कि यहाँ कैसे पहुँच गई ये औरत, और कौन है, और यहाँ काशीपुर खास कैसे पहुँच गई, और सबसे बड़ा इतनी अच्छी हिंदी कहाँ से सीखी. I know you're thinking that. So my first leap is this guy, and that kind of explains how I got here, but I'm going to tell you the story anyway because it's a great story. This is my husband Ravi. We have lived here together for 40 years, and we met in 1976, and I can tell that most of you, a few in the front rows were born in 1976, but most of you were not. Does anyone remember, looking back at your history books, what happened in 1976 in India? Very good, the emergency. And don't ever take democracy for granted. An emergency can happen anytime, any place. So during the emergency, Ravi was in the United States working on his PhD, and he wanted to create awareness in the country about what was going on in India. And so he organized a padyatra from Philadelphia to New York. It's about 200 miles. And I was on another padyatra. Mine was from Boston to Washington. Mine was much longer if you know the geography of the United States. Mine was about 600 miles. In Trenton, New Jersey, our two walks collided. Ravi and I connected. It was love at first sight, and a few months later, we were married. I was 18. He was 30. My excuse is a good one. I was only 18, but I don't know what he was thinking about. Leap number 2 is a little bit more dramatic in my mind. Everybody gets married, and it's a leap into the unknown. But what I did next was a little bit more significant. It starts in the village you can see at the bottom of your screen. It's in Uttarakhand. And it starts with a woman who was expecting her 13th baby. She had been sterilized after baby number 12, but the operation didn't work. That sometimes happens. And so she then decided she would get an abortion. She came down to Dehradun, which is where I live, and she chose the one doctor in our city who doesn't believe in abortion. And that doctor told her, look, if you want to have the baby, I can help you and I'll find a home for it, but if you want to have an abortion, you'll have to go somewhere else. The woman decided that she was going to stick with the doctor. And she went back up to her village. A few months later, she was coming down on the bus for a routine prenatal appointment, and she went into labor. The bus pulled over, and her baby was born on the side of the road. This is what she looked like. She was 12 weeks premature, and she weighed just under 1 kilo. Her mom wrapped her up in a shawl. As planned, she took her into the hospital, and she left her there. 2 weeks later, 2 young American doctors were volunteering in that hospital, and they heard the story of the baby that needed a home, and the woman said, my sister will adopt her. And the sister was me. And that's how Moi Moi came into our lives and changed everything. There's Moi Moi with her 2 homemade brother and sister, Anand and Kathleen. Moi Moi changed everything for all the usual reasons that babies change families. But she also brought a new dynamic to our family, because even though she is adorable and she looks absolutely perfect, she had profound disabilities. And by the time she was 16, Moi Moi was in a wheelchair. She spoke only with her eyes. She used a tube to eat, which we had had surgically inserted into her tummy, and she depended upon us for everything. And so I started a school, which many parents do. If you look at organizations for children with disabilities around the world, they're generally started by parents, because my other 2 kids were going to a good school and I wanted Moi Moi to have the same opportunities. So I love your theme, Beyond Conformity, because disability is by its nature beyond conformity. Our kids are way, way beyond any hope of conforming. It's not even on the roadmap. They are, by nature, nonconformists. And there is so much that we can learn from these kids about how to be in the world. It simply doesn't make sense to tell a child with a disability who can't stand up on his feet to stand straight and get in line. It doesn't make sense to tell a child who can't hear to listen carefully to everything I'm saying and do exactly that. It doesn't make sense to tell a child who can't understand, just try harder, just do it. They can't. It's just not part of their way of functioning. And what those kids are telling us is the boxes that we have created don't fit for them. They can't get into them. They cannot be like other children. And we're not even aware that we're creating those boxes for children. It's when kids with disabilities enter the scene, when they come into mainstream schools, when they come into the community, that we begin to see what we're doing to typical children and how we are hampering them, how we are forcing them to squash themselves, their personalities, their way of being in the world, to fit into some preconceived ideas that we have. What they are asking us is a fundamental change. They're asking us to change society so that they can take part in it. And when we do that, we begin to make the world work better for everybody. And that was Gandhiji's talisman, if you remember. Whatever you're doing, is it going to benefit the weakest, most vulnerable person or not? And that's what disability is all about. It's creating a world that works for the most vulnerable, and in the process, it works better for all of us. I love the idea of cultivating a disabled mind, a mind that understands that what we see in front of us is not always the whole picture, that what a person exhibits is not necessarily what is inside that person. And we begin to see that I don't know the whole story. I don't know everything that's going on in you, and you don't know everything that's going on in me. This is how we look at most people. We see them with all the distractions that are around them. We see their pedigree. What caste do they belong to? What religion do they believe in? Where is their home? How much education do they have? How much money do they earn? All trappings, all things that are not very important when you think about human beings. When you cultivate a disabled mind, this is how you can begin to look at people. In their purity, as they are, the real person, without all of that worldly stuff that we surround ourselves with and judge each other by. Because when we talk about moving beyond conformity, we're asking for it for ourselves. We want people to respect us with our idiosyncrasies and our strange ways of being in the world, our likes, our dislikes, our tastes, our things that we just can't abide. We have to do that for other people as well. And this is what the disabled mind allows us to do. And that means we have to be prepared for surprises. We have to understand that that person that we thought was straight is actually gay. The person that we thought was a man is actually a woman. That the child who was destined to be an engineer actually wants to be a painter. Be prepared. If you really believe in moving beyond conformity, there's going to be a lot in store for you. It means to see from the heart. I came here with a driver from Dehradun that I've known for years. His name is Naresh. And I always used to think that Naresh was a grumpy old man, that he was always negative. I would ask him to go left, he'd go straight. I'd ask him to slow down, he'd continue speeding. I'd ask him to stop, he would carry on. And I thought, what is up with this guy? Why is he so truculent? Why is he such a nasty guy? I hated it when the company would send me Naresh. I finally realized Naresh has a hearing handicap. He couldn't hear me when I was telling him all my instructions. Now that I've understood that, I've suddenly realized Naresh is a great guy. He's a kind man, a gentle man. He wants to help. It's just a question of seeing what is really going on in another person's life. We simply don't know We have to pay attention to the signs that they're giving us. We have to understand that we're not seeing the whole picture. Nobody sees us. Nobody knows if I've just had a fight with my husband and I've come here to give a talk. I may be upset. You would not know. But I may act differently than I normally act. You may see someone angry on the road and you don't know that he's just lost his job. We have to give people the benefit of the doubt. And when we give them the benefit of the doubt, the universe conspires to give us back that safety net that I talked about at the beginning. Leap and the net will appear. Anybody know who said that? Just leap, the net will appear? It was a guy named Karl Wallenda, this guy who's on the tightrope. He was a trapeze and tightrope artist, and he went around the world doing insane things, crossing between high buildings, he crossed the Niagara Falls on a tightrope. The guy was crazy, but he believed this: just leap, the net will appear, the universe will take care of you. And one day, it didn't. He was 72 years old. He was crossing a tightrope in Puerto Rico between two 50-story buildings. The rope broke, he crashed, and he died. Sometimes the net doesn't appear. We take leaps, we take risks, we take chances. We put our heart and our soul into a business or a new venture, or we apply for that dream job that we always thought we would get, and we don't get it. The truth about nets, they're not always there. But the other truth about nets that I want you to understand is that it may not be the net you dreamed of. It may not be the net you think you want. It may not be the net you think you need. But the net doesn't fail. This photograph is special in my family. It's the last picture that we have of us all together. My daughter Moi Moi died 6 months ago. And for us, it was like the net had disappeared. There was nothing for us. We were in free fall. Moi Moi's death was shocking and completely unexpected. But the net didn't fail. The net had been created by Moi Moi herself, by the power of her love, by the power of her vulnerability, by the power of her weakness. She had gathered a community of people around her for her very short life. And those people are the people who we depend upon for everything. On her birthday, November 17th, the first one that she wasn't there for with us, we had a party for all the people who took care of her. These are the women who looked after Moi Moi all her life and who all have jobs in the Latika Roy Foundation because of Moi Moi, who owe their success and their happiness and their fulfillment in life to this one young woman who, without lifting a finger or speaking a word, changed her world. It's a lesson for all of us. The power of vulnerability, the power of weakness to create change. A friend gave me this, and you can't read it, I'm sorry, it's probably too small for you to read all the way in the back there. It's a poem by Carl Sandburg, and I didn't understand it when he gave it to us on our wedding day, but now I do. It says at the end, "Let joy kill you." What I've understood because of Moi Moi is that the deeper the joy, the deeper the pain. And the deeper the pain, the deeper the joy. It goes both ways. Moi Moi opened our hearts in ways that we never expected. And she touched our lives in ways that we will never give up. Those changes have been permanent. We will never be the same people. We will never be completely happy because we don't have Moi Moi anymore. But she taught us and our world a profound lesson about giving, about accepting, about loving people as they are, in all their weakness, in all their vulnerability. So I'm begging you now, stay away from the little deaths, those things that you sell your soul for, piece by piece, the job that really isn't right for you, the contract that's a little bit tainted, the corrupt money, the position that's built on sand. Don't do those things. Those are little deaths and your soul will die with them. Go for the big ones. Go for the joy. Go for the real truth in life. Make your life count for others. Thank you.